Hello everyone, it's Mod22 and I'm back with some of my builds. Starting off from the fighter tank. I've had the chance these last 2 weeks to solo tank a few Crown of Caledons and it's pretty fun. Obviously my build will revolve around being able to solo tank Tom and Cock, main tank ZC, and obviously being able to tank Voss as well. So just keep in mind that it's an all-around build that should work greatly in every kind of content. You can slightly adjust it to whatever you prefer running, but this is just the most optimized way that works for me. And so I'm gonna show it to you. The thing is, I just want to have you guys understand one thing. Whenever you see someone running like an augment with a personal companion enhancement and personal weapons to increase their stats, and then they're like, I guess I'm ready to tank a cock. Yeah, no shit. Like, you took away all the group utility. It's like that's the bare minimum that you have decent stats. So just keep in mind every time you see a build of anybody, whether the stats are low or high, like you could have higher crit avoidance than I am. Doesn't mean that I didn't understand how to build my tune. No, it might be built in a different way because of higher survivability rate, because of higher effective hit points. It depends the way the stats work, and just if you have any questions about my build, ask. So I would rather give you an answer rather than having you assume, oh yeah, this guy doesn't have 70% deflect, fucking retard. So like, yeah, just make sure you ask anybody you see somebody's build if there's something you don't understand or that you think is not optimal, because there might be a reason to it. For example, one of them could be the Lich. Lich doesn't give you any visible stats, but it's the best tank companion. So, I mean, it's not gonna show, but it will do his work when you actually go in the dungeon and take the damage. Okay, with that said, that's a big premise. I wanna go into the build and starting off from the race. So the Dragonborn is definitely a great choice, but the main reason I use it is also because I have a DPS path on this that I use. I am also a DPS fighter, so Dragonborn works best for both, let's say. So if you wanna have the DPS and the tank loadout on the same fighter, then definitely Dragonborn is the way to go. If you're only focusing on tanking, then you should go with, you can also consider, let's say, dwarf and human. Those are very different looking from like each other, like Dragonborn, human and dwarf, so I feel like you already have a choice. I don't need to explain to you which one could be best. Dwarf doesn't just fit into my build because I have too much defense coming from different pieces of gear that I cannot replace. So dwarf wouldn't really fit, but human you could do using human as well. For the ability scores, I'm afraid mine are on strength and dexterity, the +2 from the Dragonborn, because of my DPS loadout. But if you're again, if you're only tanking, you should go all the way into Constitution for hit points and Charisma for Forte, that will then split into defense and crit avoidance. Obviously the accuracy is just redundant. For my stat caps, my defense is 2k short on the rating, as you can notice. That is because I cap myself with Runic Aura coming from the healer, and that will put me at 86.2% defense, and the last 4% comes from the boots of the Herald whenever I'm in a group. And for the awareness, instead, we get extra 6k from the armor when we're in a group, meaning that we will be at 74.7% awareness, and when we dig in, thanks to our class mechanic R1, we get another 15%, so 89.7% when digging in. And like, I would say 75% of the damage you take in a dungeon is when you dig in. or at least the big hits. Crit avoidance is about 2.7k short on the rating. The reason it being that I'm running Magistrate Patience, and this bonus is really nice, procs very easily, but has a 50% uptime. Even then, I don't want to waste the stats that it gives me. So I'm just a little short on crit avoidance to let it have room to be capped with that bonus 50% of the time. So crit avoidance would be at slightly higher, like 67.7%, and that's it. With whenever you're blocking or digging in, once again, thanks to the general mechanic unshakable shield arm, you get another 10%. So that would bring you even higher to like 77%. And for the deflect and deflect sev, deflect you can invest all, like the way I see it is, once you're done investing rating into defense, awareness, and crit avoidance, put everything else into deflect. The reason why I prefer deflect to hit points is because deflect is sort of a mitigation, as in when you deflect an attack you take less damage, whereas hit points will increase your survivability, but they need to be healed back. So that's what wins. That's the reason why deflect wins over hit points for me. And the other reason it being that our deflect save is only 32%, but it can go way higher thanks to the campaign boon focused retaliation and the Ring of Darkness. The Ring of Darkness is not really a deflect save buff, but it reduces the target's accuracy by 30%, which I guess you could say is like increasing your own deflect save by 30%, which is really nice. And so that's the reason behind my stats. Now going down, you can also see I have quite a lot of movement speed, and that's without the fizzy brew, because I'm using Capri's. To be able to move around, avoid red AoEs and cock, take both firebolts and tom, there's a lot of reasons why. And stamina regen, whatever above 25% really does it for me. If you're not comfortable with it, you can also run 3 stamina regen artifact in your secondary artifact slots. You'll see that I'm only running 1. Now, for the gear itself, the head is the Golden Dragon Scale Helm, but I'm gonna show you another one that you can also use. It's in Dragonbone Vale campaign store, and going down would be the Crimson Scalebreaker's War Helm, which is basically the same amount of defensive stats, just gives incoming healing instead of accuracy. So I guess you could see that as a slightly better headpiece, but for the difference it makes, like 50 item level, I just got the one from the pack. You can also find it on the auction house and call it a day. Then we have the Forest Guardian's Ward Scale Mail for the 6k awareness. All the armors are not really great for tanks, so I went for the one that gives a lot of rating. I should also mention that I think with a new adventure we're gonna get 2 new pieces that we could use on the tank, besides the shirt and the pants, which one should be the rugged sale of whatever. Whenever you get hit you get stamina regen and awareness on the head, which, I mean, the stats would be very I don't know, floaty, like they would be floating a lot. But the higher item level should make it worth it. And the other piece that we should be getting is the ring. We should get a new Ring of the Condemned with like updated item level, a lot of defense and same effect, but if I recall correctly you have to be running for 3 seconds. Anyways, these are just things that I've seen around, so don't get my word for it. Don't quote me on that, but just the heads up. You can check yourself if you'd like. For the arms of the last resistance, the tooltip would actually be, if only one of your teammates is not within 30 feet of you, then your power and defense gets increased. And that could be whatever. It could be the healer standing away from the group to have a better view. It could be the DPS running out to do mechanics, if you have DPS in your groups that do mechanics. And it could be the off tank going on the other angel. There's a lot of reasons why these arms would almost always be up in any given content. Then we have the masterwork weapons, because they help the group. Obviously it would be recommendable to have everyone running them, but the bare minimum is that the supports should be running them. Then we have the Boots of the Herald. I prefer this to, I don't know if I have the other ones as well. Yeah, the Midnight Whispers. They have higher item level, but they have less, how would you say, useful stats. And also, if the enemy is not there, like say during hypo in Tom, double hypo, Alistair goes away, you don't have 5% defense. While with the Boots of the Herald, you always have it up. And you also give 1% to your teammates, which in my book it's nice. And moving on to the right side of the gear, I'm playing a broken set, that meaning that I chose different pieces from different artifact sets to have the best combo of personal stats. So I'm running, as you can see, the Sigil of Neverwinter and the Sinews Cord. And that's it. They give a lot of constitution. It is really nice. Also, I've been informed, I had no way to test it, that the aggro sets don't work. This should be part of it. No, the other set, the one with the Jewel of the North, should be increasing your aggro, but it doesn't apparently. That's what I've been informed. I have no way to test it, if I have to be honest. And then we have the Ring of Darkness, for the reason I just said, the stats are shit, but whenever the debuff is on the enemy, it decreases their accuracy by 30%, which is basically like increasing your own deflect sev by 30%, because accuracy counters deflect sev. And then we have Ring of the Condemned, just to make sure you're able to have aggro on mobs. This is all you need. You can't get aggro on mobs one by one. You don't have enough skills. You don't have an AoE at will with enough of a large range. So that's what you should be using. And a mentionable, an honorable mention would be the other ring that gives you 5% awareness against a single enemy, but it doesn't work sometimes in COC, and so yeah, we can cap awareness anyways. There's no use for that in my build. For the shirt and pants, this is the shirt with 2 defensive stats, so I figured it could be nice to use, and with decent item level. And the pants are just from Hardcore Boss. If you can find pants without defense, that would be nicer, but these ones do the work just fine. For your main artifact, you can use whatever the group asks you to use. Obviously, the build doesn't include this artifact. It just gives hit points. I just put it there for the hit points, so you can take it off anytime. It won't ruin your stats. And so you can run whatever debuff you have. I gotta say the Horn of Valhalla is nice for solo tank in COC. Not required, not needed, but it helps relieving the stress on the healers, cleaning your stacks in P1, P2. It also helps keep the dragon still in P4 while you go around to gather mobs. You can see that in the gameplay I put on my channel of solo tank in COC. Then for the secondary artifacts, we go with 2 journals. If you don't have the darkened, it could be whatever, but you need to have 2 journals. If you don't own them at all, you can instead use 2 stamina regen artifacts. And the third one is in fact a stamina regen artifact, Champion Banner. Defensive stats plus stamina regen makes it a winner for me, and it is really nice. I would never use it as active, I really don't like it, but as secondary artifact it's become great thanks to the change to stamina regen. And then I'm just showing you real quick the modifications I have on. Here, obviously, you could put hit points if you like them better, but I explained why I go for deflect over hit points. I think I'll do it again just in case. Deflect is a sort of mitigation. You don't need to be healed back. You just reduce the damage you're taking. With hit points, you don't. You just have more hit points to be healed back, and more hit points will also work against you in cock, because the bleed that you have will scale off your hit points. So if you increase your hit points, you do nothing but make it harder for the healers to heal you back to full health. And so that's why, like, you won't see me spending a lot of resources on hit points in this build. My reinforcement kits on the left side are crit avoidance, on the right side are awareness. Now enchantments, enhancements, whatever it is, we have all garnets on the right, on the left offensive side. I have one amethyst just because I ran out of garnet, if I have to be fair. You can put whatever here though. There's no difference in what you put. If you want to be super optimal, then whatever, you can put all garnets, but whatever will do the work. The aggro will be just the same, if I have to be honest. Then we go for the defensive ones, and as you can see, I've got one amethyst and 3 jades enchantments. That is just for stat balancing, so there's not really much explaining to do there. Forte is the only utility stat we can use, so that's going to be a garnet. And the bonus one is movement speed. You could also have stamina regen, but to me, like, there's no competition really. Like 15% movement speed is gonna help you way more than 5% stamina regen. Combat enchantments. Okay, so I gotta say, all the combat enchantments are shit. The offensive ones, the defensive ones, they don't make a big difference for the EPS. They don't make a big difference for healers or anything. The only reason why I'm using Flash Freeze is that at the moment, whether it's bugged or not, I have no clue. But the tooltip is wrong, and it's actually a 100% chance to apply the slow and the reduced outgoing damage on the target. That makes it really useful for ZC, for Tom, whatever content you're running. The 100% chance to proc makes it the only decent combat enchantment you can have on a tank. And the fortified nature is also somewhat good, but it's like the fact that there are stacks and they only last 3 seconds would make it decent in Crown of Celtigon. But the other content, like for example in Tom, before you get hit by the ball, Alistair casts it for what, 5-6 seconds. So all the stacks are gonna like drop off before it even hits you, and the ball is the highest damage you can take in Tom. So together with hypo, it's like a 2-man hypo. That's what I mean. Fortified nature is not really that useful to me. It could be useful on other tanks that cannot cap awareness maybe. But yeah, that's about it. That's the reason why I'm running Flash Freeze. 100% chance to proc, reduced outgoing damage on the target by 15% is great. Hopefully they don't change it, because it's a good enchantment this way. It would be shit otherwise. My overloads are Unholy Protection and Resiliency of Depths. I'm not running Bulwark of Brimstone because, as I said, like I don't chase stats. I chase efficiency, and resiliency is way better than Bulwark of Brimstone in that matter. That's it for the enchantments, I believe. We can move on to powers, because I don't think you care about my appearance. We have Threatening Rush. I use it every 6-7 seconds. It's nice to help increasing threat. Also, like you can use it to close the gap from your enemy. Brazen Slash is the highest damage per second at will you have, and gives stamina restoration. That's why it should be your go-to when you spam it all the time. For the encounters, we've got Enforced Threat is your most important one to grab aggro back. But also, and it is AoE, so it works nicely on mobs as well. It also reduces the awareness of the target, making combat advantage even more powerful against enemies. It would be like a 10% combat advantage boost, and that would be really nice. So that's the reason why I use it. It's 10 times better than Anvil. The only times you should use Anvil is in P2 if you're double tanking Cock and ZC. P2 in Cock for the Valindra and Dragon, and P2 in ZC for the two Devils. In that case, you also need to slot Anvil of Challenge. The only reason why I keep Anvil of Challenge on all the time is because whenever I put Anvil on, I will probably not forget to put I will probably forget to put the class feature on, so I just keep it on all the time. It's not a big deal since I'm not losing much from the other class features anyways. If you're not as lazy as me, you could run Combat Superiority or Vigorous Strikes instead. And the other class feature has to be greater endurance for the extra movement speed. But back to the encounters. I've explained why Enforced Threat is 1,000 times better than Anvil of Doom. We can factor in the lower cooldown as well. And Anvil is only useful in those two situations. Then moving on, we have Night's Valor. Night's Valor drains the aggro from a DPS, making it way easier to hold aggro in an artifact phase, especially if you're running with good DPS. If you see that the healers are not, or the off-tank are not cooperating though, and they are standing close to you, making your Night's Valor useless during the artifact phase, you can switch to Line Breaker, which is going to give you increased threat. It also procs Vistani for that matter. Shield Throw is just a no-brainer. You just spam it every time you have it ready. It just helps keeping aggro. It does increase your aggro by quite a lot, tied with a feat. So obviously you gotta use Shield Thrower as well. And the other encounters are pretty much useless. The only one that I feel like mentioning is Iron Warrior. It could be good if you know you're gonna get a big hit. But most of the time you want to have an aggro encounter instead of it, because most tanks can survive through all the endgame trials without Iron Warrior, unlike it used to be 2-3 mods ago, where you could need Iron Warrior to survive the bolts in Tom or the tank switch in ZC. Dailies are, I use quite a few of them. So Earthshaker is mainly use it in Voss. Whenever we have a few mobs spawning or we go into a new group of mobs, it could be nice to establish aggro. Determination, use it in ZC against angels, or in Cock when I get hypo as solo tank, or when my stacks of bleeds are too high and I need them to drop off. That's it. Just gives infinite stamina, once again tied with a feat, otherwise it's useless. Bladed Rampart, I only use it for one occasion, which is not for the stats themselves, but for the, say, reflected damage. It's not reflected, but it fights back. I use it to establish aggro in P1 and P2 in Crown of Keldagon, because you have like 5 or 6 stacks of bleeds going on. You use it and you will see a shit ton of numbers going on your screen against the enemy. All that damage is going to help you keep aggro. Phalanx is not that useful in Cock, that's why I don't have it slotted right now, especially if you're solo tanking. And should only be used in Tom and ZC to mitigate the damage during the mitigations phases. That would be Superstorm in Tom and mitigations, White Noise, whatever you want to call it, in Zerial. And now for the feats, we still need to talk about this. The first one is for Shield Throw. The second one is whatever, they are both shit. The third one is Combat Balance. Don't worry about your ratings too much. This feat will just nicely work in the background, and just don't give it too much importance, because you're still gonna get most of that 10%, even though your ratings might not be really close to each other. It's just nice to have over the other one anyways. Perfect Block is to make determination relevant and possibly a lifesaver in the situations I described where when I was talking about it. And the last feat, both of them are good, depends on your playstyle, personal preference. I went for Shake It Off. Now, Boons wise, you have to take all the defensive ones, and then I took the one for damage resistance against fiends and necrotic mastery for the damage resistance versus undead. Now, how many fiends are there that you need to fight? I believe only phase 2 in Zerial, so this feat is really specific to that phase. But I mean, what can you use them for? 1% power? Go for it. That's really like, it won't really make a difference. And the next boost that I'll get, I'll just put it into necrotic mastery and whatever else is there. Lingering medicine is also really nice, since the heal that it gives you scales off your hit points, so it's a nice heal over time that can proc off the Stone of Health, helping your healers if needed. Now, tier 5 Forte and Stamina Regen. Master Boons, Focused Retaliations. When I will have proof of the first like rank 1 effect from Bloodlust working, that's gonna be a buff for the group, so I will use that. But as long as it's not working, I will go with Focused Retaliation instead for the extra deflect, and deflects have it's obviously a chance on encounter, so you won't have a great uptime, but we have Shield Throw that we can use every 5 seconds, 6, and that could proc it fairly easily. Moving on, just to show you my guild boons, it would be movement speed. If you don't feel comfortable because you keep dying, then you could use Revive Sickness instead. And then crit avoidance and power, but whatever offense you use is not gonna make a difference. To show you my companions, let's start from the companion itself. I'm running a summoned companion to give utility to the group. So you want to run Spine Devil, Tutor, Lion, or Dritz, and that's it. Also, like, you could run Dedicated Squire or Bulanor in different situations, but just make sure you have a summoned companion to help your group, because you can run all the end game content easily with a summoned companion. There's no need to run an augment for real. It could be useful if you are going into, like, if you're under geared going into Tom and you want it to help you with stats. So augments could be a last resort choice to, like, fix your stats if you're going in a content that you're not really ready for, but they're not bis on tanks or in my opinion on any class, any role, by any meaning. Moving on to the equipment, I have 3 crit avoidance awareness, but this is just stats wise, so if you have different pants, if you have different insignias, then you just need to adjust them. The real deal here is the companion announcement rank 1. The way I'm seeing it, I'm running rank 1 companion enhancements on all my supports, so tanks and healers. It's a very odd choice, but I'll explain to you why it works to me. It's not a DPS, right? So we don't need our companion to do maximum of their damage. Plus, like the Tutor, the Lion, they don't deal great damage anyways, so even increasing it wouldn't make a difference. I guess you could run a rank 5 if you need to squeeze out companion damage for soloing or speedruns, but in no other cases, a rank 1 companion announcement will probably make a difference for you. Not a big difference, but it will bring your ratings about 1.2k closer to your item level, increasing your stats. That's been a debate for the combatant enhancement as well, but this one gives you damage reduction by 10%. It's a mitigation, 10% mitigation. It's really strong, so it's worth having it on both tanks and healers, and obviously the offensive ones for the DPS. But the companion enhancement doesn't give you anything to use specifically, and doesn't give you any combined rating. So if you were to run the other one, you would just lose 12 1200's combined rating, let's say. Not combined rating, but like your item level would increase, but your stats wouldn't. So you would lose 1200's stats on each one of them, and that's why I'm running it. Then the companion announcement, obviously it's armor break, but could be build senses, vulnerability, whatever helps the group. These are my bonuses. So Bruenor together with Regis to have increased stats. Then Golden Decrow, Owl, and the Lich. So the Lich is what the stats don't show you. It's a really nice mitigation, probably the best tank companion right now, because the reduced incoming damage is multiplicative and will actually make a big difference. Maybe not in cock, because the bleed that you get from the dragon cannot be deflected, cannot be mitigated. It scales off your hit points, so hit points won't help either. And so nothing can help against that. But you can see a difference running the Lich in Zerial and Tom. And yeah, your stats won't look as good as the ones from the screenshot warriors on Facebook, but you will see, you will improve your survivability. And this is it for my companion bonuses. If you need to run Raptor because your group is running one and your healers want you to run it, you can swap off Regis. I know a lot of groups are doing it, so I'm just mentioning it in case. Moving on to the mounts, we have whatever combat power. I have Pegasus on right now, but it could be anyone. Deflection, and these are my insignias. All the yellow ones are fortitudes, all the blue ones are evasion. Courage insignias are also nice, but I didn't need them to cap, and they also give defense, so I didn't need any more of that. The colors are, I use them on all my tunes, so you could swap off the outgoing healing one for the stamina regen if you were to run a full tank setup, but that's it. The bonuses are 3 gladiator scales. They make you move faster, and if you are low on stamina and you need it back, they also increase your stamina regen then, so it's really nice. And Magistrate Patience gives a boost to your teammates, gives a boost to you for with 50% uptime, and I like it that way. Obviously it's not great, but it's the best option we could have there. And Shepherd's Devotion for the same reason. When you use the daily, especially in Tom or ZC, it's probably gonna be like, most likely your teammates are gonna get hit, because in Tom and ZC you're most likely to use Phalanx, and so the extra defense is nice, and movement speed to react to mechanics. That's the way I see it. Now for my consumables, I don't know if I showed already, but we have the Capris, and let me find it. Okay, Capris, that's one, and then we have Elixir or Steadfast Devotion, and the Crafted Potion of Deflect. Fizzy Brew is only nice if you need extra movement speed, but that's what I'm usually running if I want to go full potions. And the other potions that I'm obviously using, you can see it in my bar. It's not a potion, but it's the Chain of Scales that gives extra 3% awareness and another defensive stat. For your potion bar, I'm always running an Elstone, that's for sure, and the Horn of the Alliance, but you could also run the Bahamut tiers just in case somebody gets like no scrolls or is shield glitched. The Hawk is somewhat nice, but just keep in mind it doesn't do any aggro. At least that's what it's like for me. If I use the Hawk, my aggro will not increase against that target. So that's the reason why I'm not running it, otherwise it would be a nice chunk of damage. You can run the Doohickey to proc the Vistani cell as well, and that's about everything I gotta say about my build. So I hope you guys appreciated it. As I said, I would rather have you ask a question than just be confused about why I'm running a certain piece or why I made a certain choice. I hope this helps you guys out. Have fun with Crown of Keldagon, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.